My name is Janice Lopez.
Hi, my name is Abigail.
And today we will be presenting for our Health Ethics 228 class, Section 2.
The following video will feature a brief discourse of a case study involving an ethical dilemma.
An ethical dilemma is a complex situation that often involves an apparent mental conflict between moral imperatives, in which to obey one would result in transgressing another. So what experiment are we talking about?
Well, the title of the experiment was the Stanford Prison Experiment.
Who conducted the experiment?
It was conducted by Philip Zimbardo, a psychologist and a professor emeritus at Stanford University in August of 1971. So where was the experiment conducted?
Their experiment was done in the basement of Stanford University Psychology Building. They changed the basement into a mock prison.
What about?
The experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks, but the actual duration was 6 days after objection. The study comprised 24 male college students who were paid $15 a day to participate in this experiment. So what was the purpose of the experiment?
Well, the purpose of this experiment was to investigate how readily people would conform to the roles of guard and prisoner in a role-playing exercise that stimulated the prison life.
So it was basically an observational study that went wrong without proper directions or complete risk considerations.
Ah, right. Can you describe this experiment?
So, out of the 70 who responded to the newspaper ad, only 24 college students were approved to be a part of the study after diagnostic tests were made. They would be paid $15 per day and would be randomly assigned a role of prisoner or guard. The prisoners or participants were arrested by the real police without forewarning and brought to the Stanford County Jail, which was the basement they prepared and built for the experiment. There were prisoners and they were given numbers as their ID and a smock to wear with no clothes underneath, a stocking cap and a chain on their foot as a form of humiliation. The guards wore uniforms with sunglasses and whistles to make them look authoritative while giving them freedom to choose the rules they thought necessary to enforce the laws of the prison. There were 2 participants on reserve, 1 dropped out, and 10 prisoners, and 11 were guards.
What were the results and findings of the experiment?
Well, some of the results and findings of this experiment revolved around the types of guard personalities, the prisoner coping styles, the manipulation due to role simulation, increased abuse by guards, the effects of the prisoner rebellions, realizations of severity of involvement, and events leading to the experiment's halt.
What brought about the experiment halt? When the fine line between experimental behavior and personality blurred, they realized that the demeanor had drastically transformed and they had lost their true identity into the roles detected by the experiment. As the time passed, the participants as guards became more violent in how they treated to keep things orderly, while the students that were prisoners became mentally and emotionally unstable. The guards, the warden, the parole officers, the prisoners, and all those roles became so embedded in them that they forgot they could leave the study at any moment and that the prisoners could be released because they were just volunteers of the study.
As stated by Zimbardo, when Christina Maslach, a Stanford PhD student, interviewed the participants of the psychological study, out of 50 or more outsiders who had seen her prison, she was the only one who ever questioned its morality. After 6 days of the anticipated 2-week duration of the experiment, it was called off, and that marked the conclusion of it. So let's discuss, what are some of the ethical issues involved?
Well, we can see the principle of respect in this situation. The participants did not have the right to autonomy. At a point where participants wanted to leave the study, they did not let them. One participant became disorganized and appeared to have early stages of depression, and this was when they began to discharge some of the participants. With the principle of beneficence, which states, "Do no harm." These participants were tormented and brutally taunted with insults. They were showing signs of emotional disorder. The prisoners were stripped naked and harassed. Every form of prison humiliation was present, and the experiment did more harm than benefit. With the principle of justice, the prisoners at some point of the experiment wanted to leave, but they were denied the right to. Injustice occurred when the role play of the guards went out of hands. The participants got too involved in their roles and no one questioned it until Christina intervened the study. If it wasn't for Christina's appearance, the ethical issues wouldn't have been addressed. So let's discuss the importance of the case in ethical studies.
The reality of the experiment that closely portrayed, as Zimbardo briefly states, prisons humanize people, turning them into objects and instilling in them feelings of hopelessness. And as for guards, we realize how ordinary people could be readily transformed from the good Dr. Jekyll to the evil Mr. Hyde. Also, Christina Mazlat, a recent Stanford PhD, was the one who strongly objected to the study. She was there to conduct interviews with the guards, and to her surprise, she saw how abusive they were towards the prisoners. I'm not sure if the guards enjoyed their role as guards, to the point where they did not even realize that they were dehumanizing others. Can ordinary people really transform to evil?
Everybody out! All right, come on, up.
Well, gentlemen, here it is time for count.
At 2:30 a.m., the prisoners were rudely awakened from their sleep by the night guard shift for their count. The guards were told to routinely perform counts to familiarize the prisoners with their numbers and determine that they were all present and accounted for. But more important, it provided a regular occasion for the guards to interact with and exercise control over the prisoners. There were several counts every day and night.